Hi, it's Natasha N.K.O, Monday 20th of June, 20:46 p.m. I'm reading from the book called Wooden Gongs and Drumbeats, African Folktales, Proverbs and Idioms. And I've read the first story, Why the Tortoise Has a Rough Shell. I'm now reading Why the Kite Carries Chickens. Why the Kite, K-I-T-E, carries chickens. Ariwa was a beautiful daughter of a king. She had upset her parents because she did not want to marry any of the suitors that wanted her hand in marriage. Different types of suitors had come: rich princes, powerful princes, tall ones, short ones, and so on and so forth, but they were all turned down. One day, the king of the spirits heard about Ariwa and how beautiful she was. He also heard how she had refused to marry any of the men that had gone to seek her hand in marriage. Because the king of the spirit world was very ugly, he went to the beautiful fairy and borrowed a beautiful body. He also went to the king of the birds and borrowed a beautiful voice. The following day, he left the land of the spirits and came to Ariwa's father's palace with a big entourage. He came with horses, bags of gold, silver, and other precious gifts. When Ariwa saw the handsome young man with the wonderful gifts, she was pleased and made up her mind to marry him. In the night, the young man sang with such a melodious voice as was never heard in the land. Ariwa demanded to know who was singing with such a sweet voice, and was told it was a handsome young man that all believed was a prince. When the king of the spirits proposed to her the following day, she immediately accepted. The handsome king of the spirits told Ariwa's father that he came from a distant land. Ariwa agreed to go with him, joking that even if he came from the land of the spirits, she would go with him. After the marriage ceremony, the spirit king put Ariwa on his horse and rode away to the land of the spirits. As soon as the spirit king got back to his land, he went and returned the beautiful body he had borrowed from a beautiful fairy, and also returned the melodious voice he had borrowed from the king of the spirit birds. Ariwa was astonished at how ugly the king of the spirits really was, after returning all the items of beauty he had borrowed to camouflage his ugliness. So afraid was she of such an ugly creature that she ran into her room in a bid to hide away from the spirit king, her husband. But the spirit king caught her and put her in a big cage in the village square. They brought a big pot and made a big fire. Then they put the big pot on the fire and put water and other ingredients. They were preparing to kill and eat her. Ariwa was screaming, struggling to free herself. Then she looked up and saw the kite hovering over the land of the spirits. Ariwa began, in desperation, to sing to the kite. "O kite, hovering over the living and the living dead, oh, go tell my father, oh, go tell my mother, that Ariwa, their daughter, is lost while looking for a perfect husband." The kite came closer and looked. It saw the beautiful Ariwa. The kite was very sorry for her. It immediately flew to Ariwa's father's house and told him what he had seen in the land of the spirits. Ariwa's father, the king, was very upset. The queen, his wife, wept. The king promised the kite anything he wanted if he could bring his daughter back. The kite therefore flew back to the land of the spirits. He hovered over the king of the spirits' compound, then snatched a piece of burning wood from the fire and dropped it on the king of the spirits' house. The house caught fire. The spirits ran up and down, trying to put out the fire. The kite immediately grabbed Ariwa and flew away. It took her back to her father's house. Everyone in Ariwa's family was exceedingly happy at the rescue operation. Her mother cried loudly, tears of joy freely streaming down her cheeks. Ariwa too was very happy that she was saved. The king was very grateful to the kite and asked him to name what he wanted as a compensation for saving his daughter. The kite did not speak, but continued looking at the hen with its chicken. The king asked the kite if he wanted the hen. The kite shook his head in the negative. He asked him if he wanted the chicken, and he nodded happily in the affirmative. And so the king gave the kite a basket full of chickens. As the kite was flying away with his reward, however, one chicken fell off the basket. To this day, The kite still searches for the chicken that fell off the basket and therefore ends up carrying chickens whenever he sees any. The end. There's another one. Let me read it. Number 3 is called How the Cow Became Man's Property. In the beginning, all the animals lived in the forest. The sheep, goat, cow, dog, birds, antelope, and others all lived in the great forest. In the homestead, many months' journey from the great arid sea of sand, in the region before the beautiful blue river, lived Riku. Riku, the son of Sule and the grandson of Haruna, was a farmer. He was a great millet farmer. Riku was so famous that people came from far and near to buy his millet. Riku was a good man. He never cheated any of his customers. He talked to them and provided them with carriers, donkeys and camels to carry their purchases to their respective destinations. Whenever he was asked the secret of his success, his answer was always hard work and sincerity. Riku was a big millet farmer. He planted only millets and no other crop. He understood the seasons, the heavenly signs, and the weather, just like any great scholar masters his area of academic specialization. He knew when to plant and when not to. He could also read from the heavens if the weather was good for harvesting or not. Riku loved his millet fields very much and treated them as if they were his children. He was always in the fields, weeding or putting more manure to an undernourished plant or removing dead leaves from another. He knew every inch of his millet farmland. He also knew all the animals and birds that visited his farm. They were all his friends. He knew them all by name. He talked to them as he talked to his plants. They all liked him too. The birds picked on the insects that spoilt and fed on his millet. Sometimes he also fed the birds some of his millet. Riku was a great flutist. Whenever he was in his farm alone, he always played the flute. He slept over occasionally in his farm. If he did, he would play his flute at night, and whenever he played, the birds would stop chirping, and the beasts in that forest would listen attentively, enjoying the sweet melodies that flowed from the flute. Many of the animals would often come very close to him as he played, and most would be lured to deep sleep while listening and enjoying the melodies that flowed from his flute. Riku had only one regret. He was not married. It was not because he didn't want to get married. He simply had been unable to find the right person. Most of the young ladies were more interested in his wealth than in him as a person. Riku was playing his flute alone one midnight. The animals and the birds were, as usual, sleeping around him. Suddenly, he thought he heard his name. He stopped playing and listened attentively. Not hearing his name repeated, he concluded it might have been the wind blowing through the leaves that sounded like his name. As he began playing his flute again, he thought he clearly heard, "Riku!" Riku stopped playing and began straining his ears to know who was calling his name in the dead of the night like that. Then he heard a little noise from the forest path that led to his farm. Turning, he saw a very beautiful antelope, its brown skin and white stripes reflecting beautifully in the moonlight. Ricky was enchanted. He had never seen this particular antelope in his farm before, or any as beautiful as it was. He continued watching the antelope as it came closer. It got to where Riku was standing and stood looking at him. Riku stretched out his hand and touched the beautiful antelope, and instantly it changed to a very beautiful maiden. She had prominent brown eyes, her mouth was small and almost round, her nose straight and perfect, and her hair was long and silky, like the mane of a young horse. She was tall, elegant, and very beautiful. She was dressed in a long, gaily coloured silk kaftan with a wrap of a different shade covering her head and a pair of skin sandals on her feet. She had carved bone bangles on her wrists. Riku was astounded. He stood looking at her, not knowing what to do, until she said with a voice as melodious as Riku's flute, "Riku, please play your flute for me." Riku did not need a second pudding. He sat down, cross-legged, and bade the pretty visitor to sit too, and then began playing. He played his flute that night with such gusto as he had never mustered before. The tantalizing melodies oozing from the flute was such that even the wind stopped to listen and enjoy it. The moon stopped its flight across the sky, and the stars dimmed in respect to such a melodious music. That was the start of a long and romantic relationship between Riku and the beautiful antelope girl. One night, the antelope girl took Riku to the enchanted brook where fishes could talk. She showed him the magic tree in the forest whose leaves could cure any known sickness. She took him to different corners and crevices of the great forest, showing and explaining to him all the hidden wonders and mysteries of the forest. Riku, on his part, taught her how to play the flute. They were indeed very good friends, she with the wonderful voice and Riku with the melodious flute. Whenever both played together, even the heavens would stop to listen. She told Riku that her name was Helima. She was the daughter of the forest fairy. She also told him that no other human eyes could see her except his. One day Helima asked Riku, "Dearest Riku, will you marry me?" Riku was lost for words. When he finally collected himself, he was trembling in excitement, with tears of joy freely strolling down his eyes when he said yes. That night they were married. All the fairies and animals attended Halima and Riku's wedding. The guests gave them many wonderful gifts. That night, Halima transformed Riku's little farmland hut into a mansion for them. She waved her magic wand and Riku's millet farm was filled with millet stalks, each bowing down due to the weight of the rich millet seeds it was carrying. Riku's happiness knew no bounds. 1 month later, Halima announced that she was pregnant. Riku decided to stay with her every minute. He was extremely excited and happy. Here he was, with a wife he loved so much. And now they were going to have a baby. What else could a man desire from life? Riku's joy was complete. One day, while Halima was outside the house enjoying the evening fresh air, Riku was inside their house preparing a meal of roasted corn. After preparing the meal, he decided to join his wife outside, but his wife was nowhere to be found. He found her beautiful robe and her coloured headscarf. He also found her carved bone bangles and her elegant sandals. Riku searched for her everywhere, but she was nowhere to be found. He called out her name several times and played her favourite songs on the flute, but Halima did not answer. Riku was heartbroken. He wept bitterly. The animals and birds that were Riku's friends were heartbroken too. Only they knew what had happened. Halima was a fairy. Her time as a human being had expired, and she had to go back to the spirit world where she belonged. Every day Riku would stay in front of his house playing sorrowful songs and weeping for the loss of his beloved wife. Riku's animal friends decided to do something about what had happened to their friend. They called a meeting of all the animals. On the day of the meeting, all the animals gathered, except the cow, which had gone out to feed in the fields. She had told the animals that whatever they decided at the meeting, she would abide by it. So in the meeting, the animals decided that they would give one of their kinds to Riku as a condolence for his lost wife. Every animal present made a case for why he or she would not be the one to go and live with Riku. Then the cow was called out, as was done to all the other animals, to come and give reasons why she would not be the one to go and live with Riku. But the cow wasn't there. The tortoise said he had seen her hurrying to the field and had reminded her of the meeting, but that she had retorted that whatever decision was reached at the meeting would be fine with her. The elephant then suggested that the cow would be asked to go and live with Riku, and all the other animals supported the motion. The cow was returning from the field when the meeting was just ending. She asked what was decided, and was promptly told by the elephant that the entire animal kingdom spoke with one voice, and had decided that she, the cow, should go and live with Riku. The cow tried to protest, but the tortoise quickly reminded her of her promise that she would abide by whatever decision the meeting took. The end. I have to say, I can't let it go unsaid. Page 27, where he meets these beautiful fairy women. If I just go back to that. Turning, he saw a very beautiful antelope. Its brown skin and white stripes reflecting beautifully in the moonlight. Riku was enchanted. He had never seen this particular antelope in his farm before, or any as beautiful as it was. Blah, 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 blah. stretched out his hand and touched the beautiful antelope, and instantly it changed to a very beautiful maiden. She had prominent brown eyes, her mouth was small and almost round, her nose straight and perfect, and her hair was long and silky like the mane of a young horse. So I just was struck with how un-African the imagery painted by that description of a beautiful woman is. So I want to insert something here to stop especially any young people listening, particularly my children, from taking that in unchallenged as an image of beauty. Okay, because that's what the world does. That's what we are taught is an image of beauty, and it is not so, especially in Africa. All right, brilliant. Thanks for listening.